call the meeting to order. Since it is a virtual meeting, we will be dispensing with the prayer and pledge of allegiance. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Williams. Please be sure your mics are unmuted. Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Forbes.
Present.
Councilmember Bench.
Present.
Mayor Pro-Tem Moore.
Present.
Councilmember Scherzer.
Present.
Councilmember Millen.
Present.
Councilmember Balls. Councilmember Ostash. Be sure your mics are unmuted.
Councilmember, yeah.
Present.
Councilmember Ostash.
Present. Sorry about that, Clerk.
And Councilmember Balls, is he with us? Okay, Mayor Clock.
Here.
We have
All right.
8 present and 1 absent.
Hopefully, Councilmember Balls will manage to get connected. All right. Madam Clerk, you have some announcements?
I do, Mayor, thank you. I do want to remind everyone that the bulk items, recycling, and yard waste collection services is on your regular trash collection day. Also, the city compost site is open Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock a.m. till 3 o'clock p.m., and on Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. City Council will have 5 positions on the November ballot. The filing deadline is July 21st. Petition forms are available at the city clerk's office, so please call 759-1480 to obtain your forms. Bill payments can be made online or by using the city's drop box located in the back parking lot at City Hall. Please be sure to enclose your payment in a sealed envelope. Also, city news and updates are posted regularly on the city's website at www.saginaw-mi.com, also on the city's Facebook page and on SGTV channel 191. Mayor, that takes us to proclamations. Our first one this evening is declaring May 2020 as Mental Health Month.
Thank you. At this time, we will have Councilmember Bench read that proclamation.
Okay, thank you. City of Saginaw proclamation. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall physical health and emotional well-being, and whereas mental illness will strike 1 in 5 adults and children in a given year, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status, and whereas people who have mental illnesses can recover and lead full, productive lives, and whereas an estimated 2/3 of adults and young people who have mental health disorders are not receiving the help that they need, and whereas the cost of untreated and mistreated mental illnesses and addictive disorders to American businesses, governments, and families has grown to $113 billion annually, and whereas community-based services that respond to individual and family needs are cost-effective and beneficial to consumers and the community, and whereas the National Mental Health Association and its national partners observe Mental Health Month every May to raise awareness and understanding of mental health and illness. Now, therefore, involved Floyd Clark, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, on behalf of my fellow council members, do hereby proclaim May 2020 as Mental Health Month in the City of Saginaw and urge all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in our community to commit to increasing awareness and to the understanding of mental health, diagnosis, and treatment, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses. In witness thereof, Mayor has unto set forth hand and caused the seal of the City of Saginaw to be affixed this 18th day of May in the year of our Lord 2020. Signed, Floyd Clark, Mayor. Councilpersons Brenda F. Moore, Mayor Pro Tem, Michael D. Balls, Annie Bench, Jamie Forbes, John Milne, Bill Ostash, Autumn Scherzer, and Reggie Miller. No, Reggie Williams, that's a typo there, and Timothy Morales, City Manager.
Thank you. Now, I believe Tim Neinmeyer is here, and would you like to say a few words, Tim, at this time? Oh, by the way,
Yes, I would.
Tim, before you start, there is some background noise. I would ask everybody to turn your mics off so we can cut down on the background noise. And thank you to Councilmember Scherzer for that mention. We are having some problems with background noise, so please turn your mics off unless it's time for you to speak. Thank you. Mr. Neinmeyer.
Thank you. And it turns out that the timing of sending the proclamation was perfect. I received it in my mailbox this afternoon. Thank you very much. So on behalf of Saginaw County Community Mental Health Authority, Sandra Lindsay, our CEO, and the Board of Directors, I accept this proclamation. We are very grateful to work with the City of Saginaw and look forward to a continued relationship where we are all working together to provide the best services we can to Saginaw City residents as well as to all of Saginaw County. Thank you very much for taking the time to recognize May as Mental Health Month in this very difficult time that we find ourselves living through. This has been challenging to people that we serve as well as many other people in the community, and we very much appreciate you taking this time to recognize as May as Mental Health Month. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Neinmeyer, for your words. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Our second proclamation this evening is declaring May 25th of 2020 as Theodore Roethke Day.
And today, Councilmember Milne will be reading this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. This is a City of Saginaw proclamation. Whereas Theodore Roethke, a famous poet, was born May 25th, 1908, and died August 1st, 1963. And whereas Theodore's birthplace, 1805 Gratiot Avenue in the city of Saginaw, is maintained as a museum in his honor. And whereas Theodore attended the University of Michigan, earning A.B. and M.A. degrees, and briefly attended law school there before entering Harvard University. The Great Depression caused Theodore to leave school. Theodore then taught English at several universities, including Lafayette College, Pennsylvania State University, and Bennington College. And whereas Theodore also taught at Michigan State University in East Lansing, during this period of time, he became a well-known poet and author. And whereas Theodore continued writing poetry and books, which resulted in receiving a Pulitzer Prize, 2 National Book Awards, and the Bowlingen Prize, amongst many other honorable awards, and whereas Theodore's legacy remains strong in the city of Saginaw, his final resting place, as his remains are interred at Saginaw's Oakwood Cemetery. And whereas in April 2012, the United States Postal Service dedicated a postage stamp in honor of Theodore Roethke, the Roethke Forever stamp. And whereas Theodore once was quoted as saying, "A lively, understandable spirit once entertained you. It will come again. Be still. Wait." As we proudly honor this magnificent individual, we know the wait is over, for he is before us and will continue to entertain us through his poetry and writings. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Floyd Clark, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, hereby proclaim May 25th, 2020 as Theodore Roethke Day in the City of Saginaw and call upon the citizens of this community to reflect on and honor the life of this brilliant individual. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Saginaw to be affixed this 18th day of May in the year of our Lord, 2020. Floyd Clark, Mayor. Councilpersons, Brenda F. Moore, Mayor Pro-Tem, Michael D. Balls, Annie Bench, Jamie Forbes, John Millen, Bill Ostash, Autumn L. Scherzer, and Reggie Williams II, Timothy Morales, City Manager.
Thank you, Councilmember. It's my understanding Ann Ransford may be available. Ms. Ransford, if you would like to say a few words, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, here I am. I finally figured it out. And I want to say, okay, thank you so much for Rutke's proclamation. This poet makes Saginaw unique, and the Friends of Theodore Rutke have been established to honor him and to care for his two family homes, 1805 Gratiot and 1759 Gratiot. We're all volunteers, no paid staff, and we've worked hard to fulfill the mission, and the mission is stated, committed to preserve, promote, protect the literary legacy of Theodore Rutke, a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet, by restoring his family residences in Saginaw, Michigan, for cultural and educational opportunities. We have a National Register of Historic Sites for both houses. So both houses are under the National Park Service. We have a Michigan Historic Marker for both houses, and a literary landmark, that's a national designation, and that is just for the Poet's House. But we've given 20 years of literary picnics. They're called In a Poet's Backyard, where we have writers come and talk about their work and take questions and sell their work. And usually an area restaurant gives us lunch or dinner or wine and hors d'oeuvres. But sometimes the talks are on all things Rutke, like history or gardening or mental health. The poet was bipolar. And we've also had 10 years of language camps, collaborating with Joyce Seals, who's also on our board, and the Ezekiel Project students, where we've tutored them in small groups in reading and writing reviews, and then learned more about the poet's era, 1920s, where the students learn how to dance the Charleston, or meet Charles Lindbergh, who wanders by, or plant gardens themselves. And tours and classes and collaborations with Saginaw Valley State University, especially every 3 years when they give the Rutke Festival. But throughout, every year, student interns come to us to projects, we have a contract for mental health with the graduates.
Ms. Retke?
And in the libraries. Yes.
Ms. Retke, we seem to have lost you, but thank you for your kind words of the Theodore Rethke Society, Friends of Theodore Rethke. She is the president, by the way, of that Friends of Theodore Rethke. So, anyone wants to have any further questions answered, or would like any other information, you can contact Ms. Ransford. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Your next order of business is public hearings.
All right, I'd like to remind the public that speakers will be given a 3-minute time limit and that the microphone will be turned on when it is the speaker's turn to address council. The purpose of public hearings is for the members of the public to address council as a whole, for council to receive information from the speakers for consideration regarding specific action being requested of us. Speakers must limit their remarks to the subject of the public hearing. Please begin by stating your name and your position on the subject of the public hearing. The first speaker will be considered the main presenter or designated representative, and you will be allowed 10 minutes to speak. Other speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Public hearings are not a question and answer session. Therefore, questions must not be directed to individual council members, city staff, or the audience. And have we received, Madam Clerk, any written or call-ins for public comment?
Well, at first, I think we should announce the first public hearing.
Oh, yes, please
which
do.
Is,
thank you.
Yeah, the first public hearing is regarding the fiscal year 2020-2021 proposed budget and property tax millage.
And has there been any written or call-ins for public comments on this public hearing topic?
Mayor, I have not received any call-ins for speakers to speak tonight, and I have not received any written comments in regards to this hearing.
So no one is online waiting to be heard.
No.
Then I'll call for 3 times. Is there anybody, should do it properly, anybody who cares to speak on this topic? Anybody who cares to speak on this topic? Last time, anybody who cares to speak on this topic? Madam Clerk, I think we need a motion, or council members, I think we need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Madam Clerk, if you need any help with identifying the movement or the seconder, please let us know.
I will.
All right. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And Madam Clerk, the next.
Thank you. Our second public hearing is in regards to the Special Assessment District for a police and fire millage for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Again, Madam Clerk, have we received any written or call-ins for public comments?
No, Mayor, we have not.
So I will simply ask if there are anybody at this time who cares to speak on the topic. Is there anybody who cares to speak on this topic? The last time, is there anybody who cares to speak on this topic? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? With no opposition, it is passed. Madam Clerk?
We have our final public hearing this evening in regards to the Downtown Development Authority District millage to be levied on properties within the district.
Is there any, Madam Clerk, is there any, or have we received any written or call-ins for public comments?
No, Mayor, we have not.
All right, again, I will ask, is there anybody here online today to call in for public comments? Is there anybody wishing to speak on this topic? Last time, is there anybody to speak on this topic? Hearing none, is there a motion to close this hearing?
Move to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. It is closed as well. Well, I think now we are to public input. Madam Clerk, before I read the rules, is there any public input?
No, Mayor, there is not.
All right, I think we then are to remarks of council. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So at this point, I want to remind council members of the 3-minute time limit. Today, we would normally begin with Councilmember Balls. Is he online? Councilmember Balls. Councilmember Balls. Then I think next would be Councilmember Milne, if I'm correct.
Thank you, Mayor Clock. I wanted to begin by thanking some of our local partners, Saginaw Community Foundation, the Workwear Store, and TV5 for the fabric mask giveaway that was held last week. The news coverage I read on that, we had people from all over the Great Lakes Bay region came to get those free masks. We were at the Dow Event Center, was one of the giveaway sites. And I think this was good timing because hopefully that's preparing people for when we are able to reopen a little more public life. Many stores are requiring people to wear masks to enter their stores, which are private property, so they can make that requirement. And I think it also showed the community is very interested to get reopened in a safe manner. I'm encouraged by some other news items. I read the Bay City Fireworks Committee that holds the 3-day fireworks over there has not yet said that they're going to cancel their fireworks. Now, obviously, some of that's going to depend on what the state sends down as about stay-at-home orders and finding a safe way to do it. There's a number of possibilities under discussion. I imagine some of the same things are being discussed for our local fireworks. Perhaps at our next meeting, if our city manager, Mr. Morales, would have any kind of update from the fireworks committee in terms of have they requested or have they notified his office that there will not be a fireworks. It would be best, I think, to have as early a notice of that as possible. And again, I will voice my hope that our next meeting can be an in-person meeting. Our current stay-home order ends the 28th of May, and hopefully we will be able to find a way to get together. I am, again, very unhappy our citizens have not been able to engage us as much. We had 3 public hearings today, very important public hearings, and it's been found a little too hard. And I wanted to thank specifically the manager and Clerk Santos. We had some very good public publicity about these public hearings to try and encourage members of the public to comment. So I think the council and staff have done everything they can to try and get people to participate. And I think it's going to take just a little more push from the state maybe to get people out. And that's my comments for today.
Thank you, Councilmember Milton. Next would be Councilmember Scherzer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I'm going to pass today.
All right. Next would be Mayor Pro-Tem Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to do another shout out that numbers are starting to a little bit decline. The governor came on and she did her speech. There is stuff up in the UP opening up. I've just been working on a lot of little things in the city, trying to make sure we can get trash removal picked up on time and simple stuff. The other thing is CAC will be doing a food giveaway on Wednesday. It starts at 10 a.m. on Perkins Street. And so all that want to come, we're going to do it until the food is done. Once it's done, then we'll have another one sometime in May. I'm sorry, sometime in June. I'm so sorry. And so with that, I want to echo thank you to all of our heroes, because you are all the heroes in my book. But I'd like to do a special shout out to those who are on the front line. And I'd also like to say some prayers. Send some prayers up for the families. In the last 2 weeks, I've lost, well, I've not lost, but friends and families. We had a family member that lost mom and dad to the COVID virus, and an uncle. So it is like, it is hitting now, and it is real. For those people who don't think it's real, this is real. And I'm hoping that everybody is staying at home. And with that, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome, and thank you. Next will be Councilmember Bench.
Yes, hi, everybody. Just want to start by saying thank you to the city manager and Yolanda and the rest of the staff for all their hard work that they put into the budget. All their effort is always appreciated. I wanted to also mention it is good we are seeing these numbers coming down, and it is good that we are seeing our governor loosening certain restrictions. As much as I miss you guys, I still hope we've got a little bit more time before we're meeting in person, because I don't know how to keep 6 feet betwixt us all. I appreciate Councilman Milne's sentiment, but I think that we still probably need to take our time and make sure that we're encouraging our citizens to continue to, make the decisions that they're making that are causing our numbers to go down. We're going to have some nice weather in the next couple of days. The rain is supposed to dissipate, and I know our police department is busy when it's warm out under normal circumstances, but hopefully our citizens will be able to take advantage of the nice weather, but do it from a safe distance from one another, and just make sure that they're wearing masks out in public and doing the things that are required of us that are really minimal sacrifices to keep things going in a good trend. And I just want to thank the staff and everybody else out there who is still working and still taking risks every day, being exposed to the public and, keeping our city moving. So thank you for everything everybody's doing. I hope everybody's well, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next will be Councilmember Forbes.
Thank you, Mayor. My neighbors are in my thoughts and my prayers again this week, as they are every week. I especially think of our first responders, our grocery store workers, our nursing home staff, and our restaurant workers. Also thinking of them because this weekend symbolizes the start of summer for most of us every year. And everyone is going to want to get outside and get together with friends. But I remind you that as much of a downside as this is not a normal Memorial Day weekend. Please do your best to socially distance so that we can protect those very people I mentioned, first responders, grocery store workers, nursing home employees, and restaurant folks, whether they are our neighbors or not. I also pray for those that have lost family and friends that are unable to grieve with those they care about. I'd also like to mimic what Councilperson Bench said and agree that I hope that we will practice what we preach and keep social distance by continuing to have these meetings online for now. But I am going to do my very best as I need to. I did some this time, but I need to do more to try to get people to understand how this process works. So that they can participate in these meetings, because it is also unsettling to me that we didn't have any comments today. I'd also like to thank Bishop Alvernis Johnson and Pastor Chantel Johnson and the wonderful Michelle McGregor for inviting me to speak this last weekend about public policy on a Zoom call with Kingdom Life Ministries. We spoke about how land has been taken from people of color in our past and in present day as a means of oppressing them. It was a heavy topic, but they were a wonderful crew, and I learned so much from them. And I appreciate the invitation and opportunity. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. And next will be Councilmember Williams. I believe he was on.
Yes, good evening, and it's good to see everyone. I agree with everything that everyone has said so far. I would like to commend Chief Ruth and the Saginaw City Police Department. I had a citizen that reached out. They were having issues. Their mother was having issues. So they reached out because there was a neighbor that had been causing problems in the neighborhood. Chief Ruth responded immediately. Saginaw Police Department responded immediately. The next day, they were able to make an arrest and get a gun off the street through that process. And I was very proud of that. And the family was very grateful. So with that, just wanted to send a shout out to them. And also, I wanted to remind everyone, please, if you have not, please go on and fill out your census. That is still by July, I believe it's the 15th. We still have time to get that done. So I would hope that everyone would take the time, and it does not take a lot of time at all, less than 10 minutes really, to go on and fill that out. But thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next will be Councilmember Oshtash.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to everybody that's watching from home tonight. Thanks for joining us. Just a couple of things. Again, everybody's already saying things that I would have said, so I agree with everybody too. Again, thanks to our city staff. I do want to say that for putting together that budget. I finally did get through it. And in case people don't know, it's about 330 pages. So there's a lot of reading there. So congratulations to them for getting that done. Just a couple of things. One of the things I did participate in a town hall with State Representative Vanessa Guerrero. She did an online for everybody. Just some of the tribulations that people are having through the unemployment system. And lo and behold, there is an app that people use here within the city. It's called Nextdoor. And some folks were talking in the surrounding areas here. So I was able to reach out to them and also then got with them, and we got with Vanessa Guerrero, and she was able to help them out. I know Ken Horn's been doing some things too, but just a shout out to Vanessa for those folks, because they were really kind of getting stuck in the system and everybody's kind of having the same issue. So glad to help them out. Again, just talking about getting out as things start to unfold. It's been mentioned that the governor is already starting to open some things back up in the northern areas. Masks are really important because you're protecting the person in front of you. So you protect yourself by keeping your hands clean and not touching your face, but those masks are for everybody that you come in contact with. And as we know, some people do not show symptoms, but you are asystemic. So it would really be horrifying. I know, especially on my own conscience, if I was to transfer that to somebody, and their body would not be able to handle that virus, and they would end up passing away or something. So it is very important that we wear masks as we're in stores and out and about and starting to get out and do our shopping. So that's really all I have. I wish everybody a good Memorial weekend, however you're going to celebrate it in your yard or with your family. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Has Councilmember Balls joined us? Councilmember Balls? All right, then I will proceed. I do want to say ditto to my fellow council members' comments regarding social distancing, the coronavirus safety matters, the thanks to all the people who have been helping us. I have been approached by MML, the Michigan, or the American Mayors of America, who have all asked to have me sign on to a letter, separate letters, two different ones, to address to both the leaders in Congress and the leaders of the Michigan delegation to Congress regarding the Relief Act for Main Street America. I've been asked to sign on. I've agreed to do that. The first letter had 94 mayors sign on nationwide. All 13 of the Michigan urban core mayors have signed on, plus a few others. So the mayors have been working very hard, and the mayor associations nationally and locally have been working very hard to try and persuade members of Congress of the need for financial support to local communities less than 500,000 population. So if you have any contacts you can make on that topic, the House of Representatives did pass an act. Unfortunately, the Senate has said it's dead on arrival, so we need to convince some senators that it should not be and that this act should pass. Today, I also participated in a web presentation by IMPART. That's the Michigan, it's a coalition of 7 different Michigan departments, ranging from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy through Agricultural Department, Department of Natural Resources, and multiple others, regarding PFAS and PFOS over at the former Plant 2, Delphi Plant 2 site at 1400 Home Street off of Center Avenue. And the basic upshot of that was that there are no immediate threats concerning those PFASs or PFOs from that site, although they are continuing to monitor and will continue to monitor. The webinar will be posted on the IMPART video website if anyone cares to see that. And that's all I have at this point. So at this point, Madam Clerk, if you are prepared, we can move on.
Thank you, Mayor. We are now at the reports of the manager.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A number of things to go over this evening. And first, Officer Catherine Mercer is the May Police Officer of the Month. Officer Mercer has developed into a well-rounded officer using her innate empathy and excellent communication skills to gather information. She then conveys through her thorough, well-written reports and detailed preliminary investigations. Thank you, Officer Mercer, for the excellent work. And that leads into the Police Awards Memorial Ceremony. And I'd like to thank Chief Ruth and the Saginaw Police Department for having the Saginaw Police Virtual Awards Ceremony and Memorial Service last week on May 15th. The ceremony and service are posted on the city's YouTube channel for anyone who would like to watch. Ray Sean Jackson was selected as the 2020 Civilian Employee of the Year, and Officer Jordan Englehart was selected as the 2020 Police Officer of the Year. Congratulations to both of them. The next topic is the 2021 budget, which is on the agenda this evening. And I want to take a moment to thank the Office of Management and Budget, department heads, and other city staff who worked diligently to develop the 2021 city budget. As you know, the process for developing the annual budget starts in late December and really starts moving in January. The team was well into development when the COVID-19 pandemic struck and changed everything. The budget was modified, capital projects were reduced or eliminated, and a lot was cut from what we had planned to do. What you have reviewed is essentially a status quo budget. Several capital projects were removed. Spending increases included are basically limited to contractual employee increases, step increases, wage increases that are contractual, health insurance increases, and pension and OPEB increases. As we often say, the budget is a living document, and we will continue to monitor the situation, both revenue and expenditure. Some in the media have compared the city to other employers or local governments and wonder how we can continue with these employee increases while others are furloughing or laying off employees. As stated previously, the increases aren't contractual and we must abide by our union contracts. Any change would require discussions with the unions, and we're not at that point at this time. Situations like the one we find ourselves in currently are the reason why we have worked so hard to build a healthy fund balance. It is a rainy day fund, and it's raining right now, I think literally and figuratively both. This is why we don't immediately spend those savings or provide additional benefit or higher raises, but instead allocate savings to fund balance. We have been monitoring financial information from the state. As you know, last week they had the revenue conference, and the city controller reported today that based upon the state's estimates, we expect to see a shortfall in the current fiscal year of approximately $98,000 and a potential shortfall for FY 2021 of about $300,000 from state shared revenue. These are very preliminary numbers at this point, and we will of course examine them further as we progress. However, our first goal will be to monitor and cut costs to offset these deficits related to decreased revenue. We'll also continue to review the city's income tax, property tax, and grant revenue. We know that income tax revenues are going to be delayed this year because of the revised due date for income tax. We have estimates for that, but given that our primary source of income tax revenue is from the hospitals, we did not believe that that would decrease significantly at this point. Again, those are subject to change, and we have actually seen some increases in grant revenue. You've all seen increased block grant revenue from some of the legislation that's already been passed by Congress. And also, we have created several business units to track costs related to COVID-19, if we've had any overtime costs in public safety or public services, as well as additional supplies, and we do expect to be reimbursed by those items. And with that, if you've noticed, we have Brian Weiss and Yolanda Jones from the OMB with us this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Yolanda. She will probably have a brief statement, and then any questions that council members have for Yolanda or Brian can be addressed at this time.
Thank you, City Manager Morales. Good evening, Mayor Pro-Tem, council members. Tonight I was going to provide a wrap up of our discussion of the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget. And as you know, our proposed budget continues to reflect our commitment to provide quality services to our residents while preserving our organizational long-term financial viability. The total citywide budget is projected to be $124.81 million. This is a $4.56 million increase, or about 4% increase from the previous fiscal year. The general fund budget for fiscal year 21 is projected to be $36.27 million. This does represent an increase of $1.26 million from the previous years. It should be noted that the largest overall increase to the budget can be realized in our water operation and maintenance funds of approximately $3.23 million due to an anticipated bond issuance for planned construction projects and equipment. Other increases that will be realized, and the city manager has already discussed, is that we will be realizing a 2% across the board increase for salaries due to the settlement of the collective bargaining agreement in June of 2019 for union and non-union. We have regular step and longevity increases as required by the collective bargaining agreement, We also realized a 3% to 5% overall increase of active healthcare, a 5% overall increase to our retiree healthcare. As we also required by the actuary evaluation, the city has to budget for an annual pension obligation. The largest increase to our pension costs will be realized in the police pension valuation that increased $800,000 from the previous year. This is all realized in the general fund. Funding was provided to address the other post-employment benefits or OPEB liabilities. We also had some reclassification of existing personnel and the addition of new positions. As that has been pointed out in the budget presentation, in the budget discussion, the city will add a police officer to the personnel complement. This will bring the complement to 62 sworn. In addition, with the approval of the mid-year personnel complement, City Council approved adding one additional firefighter that brings that total sworn complement to 39. We will also see increases in some of the interdepartmental charges, as well as recognizing the cost for principal and interest payments for installment contracts that were entered into in fiscal year 2020. All of these increases affect the 2021 proposed budget. The budget is balanced, and there are many challenges that the city of Saginaw will face and will overcome in order to be in a positive position for the future. As mentioned previously, we are in continuous contact with our counterparts throughout the state to try to understand the true impact of COVID-19 that will have on us. We've also been involved in numerous webinars with the White House briefing, the State of Michigan Department of Treasury, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and the Michigan Municipal League. We know and understand that we'll have to closely monitor our spending and adjust the budget accordingly as the information is relayed to us. At this time, I would like to thank my OMB staff, Brian Weiss and Jonathan Baker, the city manager, the department and division heads for all their hard work on the budget during the challenging year. At this time, we are available to take any questions that relate to the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget. Thank you. You're on mute.
Mayor, you are muted.
Thank you. Victim of my own notice. All right. Is there any questions of the manager or Yolanda at this time?
Councilman Millen here.
Yes.
It's not really a question. I just wanted to point out that going by my own experience, any questions about the budget for next year that we've come up with in terms of reduced revenues or change in expenses, my experience has been the staff has thought of them ahead of us, that they've worked very hard on looking at this changing situation. And I appreciate the work they're doing. Every day something can be different. And I'm sure that will continue into the budget year coming. So thank you in advance for your very close monitoring that's going to happen this year.
Thank you. Anybody else with any questions or comments for the manager or Ms. Jones? Anybody else?
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro-Tem Moore. I
Yes.
just want to thank the staff as well. And thank you, Tim, because city manager, you did answer some questions that aroused in the community about the 2%. And I think you explained it quite well to the public. Thank you so much.
Very good. Anybody else? All right. Nothing else. Mr. Manager, is there another topic?
Yes, and this is the last thing in my update. I wanted to provide an update regarding our work on the recreational marijuana opt-in ordinance. And going back with a little bit of the history, last year City Council directed staff to prepare ordinances necessary to allow the development of adult use recreational marijuana establishments in the city. And to allow more time for staff to develop comprehensive ordinances, Council adopted an ordinance temporarily prohibiting marijuana establishments within its jurisdiction. This ordinance was introduced on August 5th, 2019 and approved on August 19th and went into effect on August 29th. The ordinance specifically provides this chapter shall automatically be replaced 1 year or repealed 1 year from its adoption, if not otherwise repealed, amended, or replaced by City Council prior to that date. In other words, the opt-out ordinance will automatically sunset on August 19th, 2020, if the city takes no additional action prior to that time. As you know, the city attorney presented draft ordinances for opting into recreational marijuana at our strategic planning session in January. Draft ordinances were prepared which allow the city of Saginaw to opt in and provide terms for licensing, development, and operation of certain adult use recreational marijuana establishments within its borders. Staff continued to work on the ordinances following the meeting based on the discussion as well as additional information through research. I believe that we came to a point that was the ordinances were ready to move forward. We weren't contacted. We did have input at the meeting, and there were, I think, some small items that some council members commented on, but a lot of it I think we could work through over time. And I think what we have prepared would be ready to go. And as always, those ordinances can be amended later. It could be changed after introduced. So in March, I was preparing to send the ordinances to the City Planning Commission for review, which would have been the next step prior to coming to council. The unpredictable events of the last few months have caused a delay in moving these ordinances forward, such that it now appears impossible to fully adopt the opt-in ordinances prior to the date of sunset, if it is the desire of council to move these ordinances forward at in-person meetings. So I worked with the city attorney, and she prepared a summary for me of the upcoming meetings and availability. There's been some discussion this evening already regarding the virtual meetings. The executive order allowing virtual meetings does not end at the end of this month with the stay home, stay safe order. That order goes through the end of June. So talking with the mayor and the mayor Pro-Tem today, I don't believe that there would be a strong desire for council to return to in-person meetings prior to the end of that order. And I think that would go the same for the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has also started having some virtual meetings. So when we're looking at this, I think in my opinion, there are a few factors to consider here. And one critical component is transparency and trust in local government. So I believe that these ordinances would be best suited to be in front of meetings where the public can attend and provide public input to both the Planning Commission and City Council. As we've seen from our virtual City Council meetings, we have not had any public input at all today, and we have publicized these meetings. So if we move forward with these ordinances at virtual meeting, I don't believe we would have public input. A second consideration.
Tim, excuse me, we're getting feedback from somebody. Could everybody check their speaker, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like everyone's muted now. So the other point that I wanted council to consider is that we're looking at making these ordinances, assuming that they were to pass, the licensing would be later in the year after the presidential election. And the reason for that at this time, especially now, since we've had the COVID-19 pandemic, is some of the primary workers on registration will be in the city clerk's office. And at this point, we don't know what the August or the November elections are going to look like. Potentially, through the clerk and I discussing it, they could be certifying and auditing elections to December this year because of some of the changes that have been proposed. So I'm going to walk through the schedules and potential impacts for council. If we were to be able to comply with the current August 19th date, we would have at a minimum 2 virtual meetings for this. The zoning amendment would go before the Planning Commission on May 26th, which is next week. And then all ordinances would come to council on June 8th. So there would be 2 virtual meetings at a minimum. And then the ordinances would come back to City Council for adoption on July 13th. So potentially that would be an in-person meeting, but it would be the final point for the public to discuss the issue. A second timeline would not fall within the August 19th deadline, but would still have 1 virtual meeting if we referred the zoning amendment to the Planning Commission for the June 23rd meeting. That would be a virtual meeting, still likely for the Planning Commission. However, we could potentially have an in-person council meeting on July 13th, and then it would come back to council for adoption on August 24th. And that would be, however, 5 days after the current sunset clause. And then a final scheduling where we could potentially have all the meetings in person. The zoning amendment would go before the Planning Commission on July 28th, and that could probably be an in-person meeting. Then all ordinances would come to council on August 10th, and then come back to council for adoption on September 14th. And if passed at that time, then business owners would know that it's in place and what to do. They could begin work on that, but we would probably still set the licensing for later in the year due to the clerk's current workload. So at this point, my recommendation would be to extend that sunset provision by some period that allows the city to hold in-person meetings for these ordinances, if that is important to council.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I do note that there are, each of these scenarios you mentioned, a delay of about 30 days from the first council introduction to the final. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, Mayor, that's because when there's a zoning ordinance amendment, those get laid over for a period of 30 days rather than the 2-week time frame that we normally see for other ordinance adoptions.
All right, thank you. Council, is there any additional questions or thoughts for the city manager or our city attorney?
Councilman Millen here, Mayor.
Yes.
A question for the manager. As you explained the timeline, it sounded like there would be a possibility of sending something for a zoning change that we hadn't sent yet for a May virtual meeting of the Planning Commission or the Zoning Commission. That one seemed out of order. I couldn't follow that one.
The zoning amendments are sent by administration. They're not sent by council. So it would be referred to the Planning Commission by me as a city manager.
Got it.
And that's what I was planning to do back in March when this health crisis started, because we had finished up work. The city attorney had finished up her work, and the clerk had, and the planning and inspections group had finished everything. So I feel like they are ready to go at this time.
So that one particular piece can precede any further council work, the zoning portion.
Yep, the zoning amendment has to go to the Planning Commission before it comes to council.
Got it. Okay.
The mayor and Mayor Pro-Tem can probably comment better to you all on how the virtual Planning Commission meeting went. I would state that it probably didn't go as smooth as the council meetings have gone, but they would have their next meeting is May 26th and then June 23rd. Both of those are within the when we will probably still have virtual meetings.
I will, in response to the comment by the manager, the Planning Commission did meet virtually. It went by. We were able to get through it. I would agree it was not quite as smooth as council meetings. There were no public comments there either. So, Mr. Manager, it's my understanding your biggest concern is whether we should be trying to get through this by the August deadline by using virtual meetings to address the issues both at the Planning Commission and in council, or whether we should be trying to figure out a way to make it happen in regular meetings, both of the Planning Commission and of council. Is that correct?
That's the main question for council is, do you believe that it needs to be in-person meetings? Or are you comfortable with this proceeding with virtual meetings or some combination thereof? The only way to get it through by the deadline would be with 2 virtual meetings, the Planning Commission and the introduction of the ordinances at council. And then we would likely, hopefully, have a live meeting on July 13th, which would be for adoption, and then that would fall within the deadline. Any other time frame where we would have 1 or fewer virtual meetings would not fall before the current deadline.
All right. Council members, any further questions for management?
Yes, I have a question. Well, I don't have. I have a concern. I'm understanding, even from the meeting this morning, is that we can do this 1 or 2 ways. We can ask for an extension, which will allow us to have time to have the timing, and we can also, correct me if I'm wrong, we can also ask that management moves forward with the opt-in orders. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mayor Pro-Tem, I believe you're correct. Those are options. I don't see doing nothing and letting the sunset
right
without something in place to be. So it's proceed with opting in under the current meeting circumstances, or extend the deadline on the opt-out and bring the opt-in ordinances when everybody.
So let me understand, Ms. Amy. We can actually say, as a body, we want to extend it, or we want management to move forward with the opt-in ordinance, which means that we will be moving forward, and that will take us beyond the sunset deadline that we probably won't make. But that's still, we're still moving forward to do what we need to do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, again, I believe you're correct. Under the proper course would be to do an ordinance amendment to the current opt-out, changing the sunset date. That would be a fairly simple process of just 2 regular council meetings, and then bring the opt-in ordinance once we can meet in person.
All right. Any further questions or?
This is Jamie. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Couldn't we simply extend for only the necessary days, say 2 weeks or 4 weeks, in order to limit the number of meetings that needed to happen online? We could keep it as short as possible so that people understood that we were keeping to our word and moving as quickly as we could.
You could, yeah, you can do that. So I wanted to make one more comment before further discussion. The time frame that I laid out for these schedules, remember, is if everything goes perfectly through these processes. For instance, to get the August 24th, by August 24th or September 14th. The introduction at zoning for August 24th is June 23rd, which would be virtual, or July 28th for September 14th. If you wanted all in-person meetings, that's assuming that it goes through at that meeting and gets moved forward to council. So these are timetables that if you did make an adjustment, you probably want to have a little extra time in there just to make sure that it did go through and got approved as we would like. Is there anything else you wanted to comment on that, City Attorney?
No, only that it's a little bit hard at this point to put a date certain in because we don't know what the governor's going to do with regard to the executive orders and with regard to the executive order for virtual meetings. So while we think that currently wraps up June 30th, and I think that's everybody's hope is we're in a safe enough place that we can get to some sort of normal again. We don't know for certain that's going to be the case. I did just see tonight, I saw a new extension and replacement of the stay home order. We're on Executive Order 2020-92, and it doesn't look like she extended the date beyond May 28th, but it does, contain new provisions with regard to opening some regions of the state, but very limited at this point. So, it's kind of this current ever-evolving process that is a little hard to predict right now.
Councilman Millen?
Okay, yes, go ahead, Councilman Millen.
For our procedure tonight, I'm just wondering if, as we reach the end of the meeting under miscellaneous business, we should ask the manager and staff to prepare an amendment to the ordinance that's in place right now and present that to us at our next meeting.
I would say that were that
correct?
To be done, that would be the correct place. This is not the time for motions.
Right.
This is only the time for questions and explanations from the management. Now, so if that is something that is desired, council can do that at that time.
Okay.
I do want to follow up one question, Mr. Manager. The timeline, we certainly do not want it to be, it would have to be a relatively short, as Councilmember Forbes suggested, I think, but certainly 2 or 3 weeks probably would not be realistic. Maybe a 1 or 2 or 3 months might be. Is there any extraneous time? You mentioned the election matters, and you mentioned the ability of the clerk's office to get to the issue of registrations for marijuana facilities to be sometime probably after December. Is that correct?
I would say probably after December 1st at the earliest. So I think whenever it comes for consideration to council, that date is going to be the same this year, regardless of what date council considers passage of the opt-in ordinance, just because of the election schedule. And it's a new process, and I think this clerk will want to dedicate her staff to some training on that when they aren't dealing with election activity. So I would anticipate whenever it passed, the first licenses being issued at the same time, whether it's late this year or whatever it happens to be. It's likely going to be after that election process is through. So I wouldn't think that would be prior to December 1st. If the virtual meeting executive order were extended, I don't want to keep putting this off farther because I think it is ready. So if you if you get to the third schedule and it's July and we're still having virtual meetings, at that point, I think we should have been doing virtual meetings long enough for people to feel comfortable to call in or get into it, because I don't think you want to push it beyond that point for a lot of different reasons.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt?
Mayor Clark.
Yes, Madam
I
Chair.
just want to say thank you to the city manager for giving the update, because I did send an email inquiring about it. So I'm so happy that you addressed it tonight. But just my sentiments that, you know, we've been talking about this for 2 years. We've had 2 strategic planning meetings on it. We've had lots of public comments. And if we can move forward with this introduction of the ordinance, you know, it's all, we have a lot of things that we don't know what's going to happen. If we're going to meet in person, if we're going to stay in virtual for a while, you don't know. So if it is ready, I would like to see this move forward as quickly as possible, because conversations can continue to happen, and the public does have access to give their public comments, and we just have to adjust with the situation and the atmosphere that we have right now. So if we can get it going as soon as possible, I would like to see that happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Scherzer. Any other questions or concerns for the management at this time?
Yes, Councilwoman Bench.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a comment. Well, and I do want to echo what Councilwoman Scherzer said, but just thanking our staff and our city attorney and city manager for continuing the work on this and keeping it, you know, in the forefront of their minds, despite everything going on. I personally think we should move forward. If I'm hearing it correctly, it would be 2 virtual meetings to meet the deadline of August 19th. And that would be the zoning meeting on, excuse me, virtually, and the introduction meeting for council. And I think we've had enough conversations about it that we can at least introduce it virtually, and then if we're in a position to meet in person after that, then we can move forward that way. But I think it's unwise for us to use any unnecessary excuses to delay this any further, simply because I think we know where the public stands on it, and it's going to be an issue that's you know, comes into play during the election, that's for sure. So I think we need to be mindful of you know, setting timelines and trying to, you know, convince the public that we're, you know, working and moving. You know, I don't think the council should necessarily delay it if it's ready. So that's just my opinion.
All right. Now, again, are there any additional questions or concerns to express to the manager? I should point out, if we really wish to discuss it, we probably should wait to motions and miscellaneous. But so I really would urge council members, if you've got questions to address to the administration, it'd be appropriate time to do that. Anybody else?
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
This is Clerk Santos.
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to make some comments in regards to the election, but I will wait until motions, miscellaneous business,
all right,
to address it at that time.
Thank you. I'll call on you at that time. Any additional questions or matters such as
the mayor?
Yeah, and that is who?
Michael Balls.
Oh, welcome, Michael. Oh, there you are. I have heard you were listening, but I didn't know that you were with us. So congratulations for getting here. And what are your questions?
I just wanted to know with the ordinance, do we have any local content in the ordinance, or am I getting too far in front of the horse, or what?
Madam Attorney?
I'm sorry, I could you phrase your question, Councilmember Balls? I'm sorry, I guess I don't know what you mean by local content.
What? I mean, what I'm saying is the licenses going to be given out to the people that live in the city of Saginaw, or is it up for grabs for anybody?
It's a general licensing ordinance, so any qualified applicants would be considered for licensure.
Regardless of what city they live in or where they're from?
Correct.
So Well, I think we need to put a caveat in there where we saying that local businesses should be able to get some of that business instead of people taking our money out and running away with it.
That is a legitimate question, but I don't think we should discuss it at this point. That would need to be done in motions miscellaneous. Is there further questions on the topic?
All right, that's fine. I just like to know when that time should come up, Mr. Clark. I want you to keep me informed of that.
It will be during motions and miscellaneous. If anybody wishes to discuss it, they would need to bring a motion and we could discuss it during that time based on the motion. And all right. Any further questions for management? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, the next item, please.
Thank you, Mayor. You are now at the consent agenda.
The agenda has been available at City Hall, on the city website, and on SGTV channel 191. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda to be noted by the clerk? Anybody? Any exception? Hearing none, Madam Clerk. Well, excuse me. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Seconded. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is carried. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, we are now at boards, commissions, and committee reports.
Are there any reports from members of any city boards or commissions? Any reports?
Councilman Millen?
Yes, proceed.
We will be having a regular MBS International Airport Commission meeting this Thursday. And at that meeting, we will be considering getting a new airport manager. The current manager is retiring in June. And at our next meeting, I should have the results of that personnel matter.
All right.
To release.
Very good. Any other reports from council members? Last time. All right. Madam Clerk, we can move on.
We are now at appointment of board and commission members.
And there are 3 items, Madam Clerk. Well, first I will ask, are there any exceptions to the 3 to be noted by the clerk? Any exceptions? If not, then Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Would you like a motion to approve all 3?
We can do it as a consent, yes, if that...
There was no exceptions made.
That's right, no exceptions. All right, I would ask for a motion to approve all 3 of the appointments.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Who was the second?
All right, who seconded that?
I need a name when you guys speak.
I'm sorry, either Annie Bench or myself, I think.
Annie?
Councilman Millen.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now, it's been moved and seconded. Is there no discussion? I've asked all in favor of the appointments.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is carried. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. We are now at ordinance introduction, and we do have one this evening. It is to amend the official city map to rezone Block 77, Poinier Farm, City of Saginaw, from R1, single-family residential, to riverfront mixed-use institutional.
Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
That was
Second that.
And seconded by Councilmember Mill.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion?
I've got a question.
All right, and who is this?
Ostash, Councilman Ostash.
Right,
Yep. So
proceed.
I was trying to find out exactly where this is located at. Can I get that answered?
Yes, it's on Cooper. It's on the north side of Cooper.
Okay, yep. So this
block, just directly north of where the new hospital is going to.
Okay, thank you.
There is a map on page 21 of 43 of the agenda packet.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Nope, I'm all set. I see it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is carried and it will be laid over under the charter provision. Next, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we are now at resolutions. Our first resolution is approving the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion to
Bench.
adopt was Councilmember Milne.
Bench.
Bench made the motion.
Yes.
Okay. And the second was who? Whom? Who did the second?
I have Councilmember Millen second.
All right. Very good.
Support.
All right.
Yes.
Any discussion on the motion to adopt? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there any opposed? It is carried. Madam Clerk?
Our second resolution is approving the amount for the fiscal year 2020-2021 public safety millage.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second that.
Moore and Milne. Moore and Milne. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Madam Clerk?
Our third resolution is approving the request of the Downtown Development Authority to levy a 2 mil tax on all real and tangible personal property not exempt by law and is finally equalized in the Downtown Development District for fiscal year 2021.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Milne,
Millen.
Support.
supported by Bench. All right, any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Who is that?
What was the last, how many meals did we do last time?
2.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Madam Clerk?
Okay, our fourth and final resolution this evening is authorizing to seek fiscal year 2023 local bridge program funds from the Michigan Department of Transportation.
Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll move that.
Milne, and who seconded it?
Moore.
Moore, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? It is carried. Madam Clerk, I think we're at unfinished business.
We are at miscellaneous business.
Okay, miscellaneous. Now, is there any other business to be brought before the council at this time? Anybody at all?
Councilman Millen.
Yes, proceed.
I will move that council direct the manager to prepare an amendment to our marijuana facilities ordinance, extending the sunset for 90 days.
All right, there has been a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? For lack of a second, the motion will die. Is there any other motion at this time?
This is Brent.
Yes.
Mayor Pro-Tem. I make a motion that we extend the sunset order with the provision that we ask management or staff to move forward with the opt-in clause.
And is there a time period on your motion to extend?
I say at least 90 days,
All right,
but my motion is saying we move forward with the opt-in, and that will give us plenty of time, based on what I was told, beyond our August 19th, to move forward.
to restate the motion, Madam Clerk, could you please do so?
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Moore to bring forth a package of opt-in ordinances to move forward.
And I believe it was with up to a 90-day time limit.
Yes.
For the opt-in, or does she want to extend the sunset?
The extension.
I'm not clear on this.
All right, I'll rephrase as I understand it. The motion was to extend up to 90 days with the direction to management to move forward with the opt-in ordinance. Is that correct, Madam Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Yes, it is.
All right. Is there a second on that motion? Is there a second on that motion? Hearing none, the motion dies for lack of a second. All right.
Second.
Oh, it has been seconded. Okay, so it has been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Moore and seconded by Councilmember Milne, I believe it was.
No.
Is there,
Balls.
oh, Michael Balls. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Balls. Is there any discussion at this stage on the motion?
Yes.
All right, please, Councilmember Milne.
Councilmember Millen. I'm not sure the form of the motion is necessarily correct. Management's only part to move forward on is to present us with a motion or an ordinance, draft ordinance, which they're going to do. I'm not sure the ordinance other than it also contains a 90-day extension of the sunset, or more correctly, Mayor Pro Tem Moore said up to 90 days. I'm not sure we can place in an ordinance an uncertain amount of time.
Madam Clerk, your input?
Mayor, could I make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
So I think the direction of that, I think I would be clear on the language of the direction being that we proceed as I described, whether even though we're having virtual meetings, to send our zoning amendment to the Planning Commission for the May 26th consideration. So we would be moving forward as I described, could potentially have 2 virtual meetings. But that extension that the Mayor Pro Tem is advocating would give you time in case there's an issue at planning whereby, as I said, you have to hit these dates and everything has to pass as is to get to the August deadline. That potential extra time would be there under this motion in case there was an issue either at the Planning Commission or at Council. So if there were a council member that wanted to make a change or further discussion on the amendment, that would give you time to go beyond that initial August deadline. But my understanding is you'd still be directing me and the city attorney to send the current zoning ordinance to the Planning Commission for consideration on the May 26th meeting. Am I understanding that correctly, Mayor Pro Tem?
That is so right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. With that clarification, is there any further discussion or question on the motion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed?
Can we do a roll call vote
Yep,
there?
let's do a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Oh, Madam Clerk, have you?
I didn't hear a nay though, Mayor. Did you?
I wasn't sure. Was there a nay on the motion? I did not hear one for sure, but if no one's speaking up, then I assume it has passed for lack of a nay.
Yes.
Is that correct?
We got too much static in the background. That's why a roll call vote.
We do have some static.
This is inappropriate. This is Councilwoman, but I'm kind of confused on the motion because of all of the noise. So I'm not really sure. I know you called for the vote, but I'm really confused on this.
All right, that's fair. I will, as I understand it, and explained by the manager, he understands the motion to be that he must proceed with presenting the ordinances to the Planning Commission at its next meeting, which is next week. But that the motion is asking to extend the time an additional up to 90 days, I'm sorry, for the purpose of giving flexible time in case the matter cannot actually be completed by the August deadline. Does that make sense,
So essentially what staff would do is we would send the zoning amendment allowing that part, that component of opting into the planning commission next week. But at the next council meeting, we would also present an ordinance amendment extending the sunset for 90 days, just in case things don't run perfectly through the 3-meeting process on the opt-in ordinance.
Before I ask for anything further, there's too many people with mics on. Please turn your mic off if you aren't talking. That's much better. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Lusk. That clarified a lot of my confusion. So thank you.
All right. If you have, raise your hand and I'll try and catch it if need be. But all right, Councilmember Oshchest, do you have a question?
Yeah, on the motion, because you're right, there was a lot of noise, and I actually apologize. I kind of missed kind of what Councilwoman Moore was actually presenting, and then who even seconded it. My question to the motion is, why are we looking at 90 days? It seems like with the kind of the timeline that we're on and that we're moving forward and where it's got to go, even like even if we looked at 30 like out to September, and then licensing would start in November.
Mr. Manager, do you have a response?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I don't think when the ordinance passed is going to impact licensing, because at this point we're not asking council to add any employees to process these licenses. So it will be incumbent upon the current staffing that we have in the clerk's office to do a lot of the work. They're not going to be able to do that work between August and likely mid to late November because of the elections. This is going to be very heavy election time, as I'm sure you're all aware, because it's a presidential election. First, and second, because we don't know what the election's going to be like. So whenever this passes, we're likely going to include in the ordinance a licensing time, December 1st or later than that, but likely around that time, so that the clerk's office can be completed with the November election, have it certified, and be able to do some training of her staff on this licensing. So whether it passed August 15th or July 13th, it's likely going to be the same licensing time because of that requirements. At this point, I really would like to consider adding staff to process it, but it's probably not a good time to do that, given our potential revenue limitations and also the uncertainty surrounding revenue from licensing, whether it has to be 90 days or not. I would, if you're directing me and the city attorney to start the process next week with the planning commission, if everything goes well, you'll have it for introduction on June 8th and come back July 13th. So you would have it done well before the current deadline. And even if you wanted to take another week or another meeting to do it, the next meeting after that would be August 24th. So you're going to be, you don't necessarily need 90 days, but even if you include 90 days in this ordinance, in this amendment or motion directive, the likelihood of it going beyond a few weeks is not very high, given your direction to me.
All right, Mr. Manager, and I do understand now too, because we don't want to be in a situation where this sunset expires and then we don't have anything in place. So I can understand the window. So even though we put that window out there, things could happen sooner if things go along, but that's just giving us a buffer so that we're not out there with a sunset clause that sunsetted. And I just want the people watching, because I know that there will be discussion in the city after our meeting on this, that people understand that we are moving forward, but we're giving ourselves a little bit of a cushion under the current situation and circumstances that are going on right now, so that we are okay. So I'm good with that. Thank you. And that was a good explanation. There was no noise this time, and I was able to really hear what was going on.
Real good.
Everybody know this is challenging. Thank you.
It is. Well, thank you for the Mr. Manager for the clarification, and Councilmember Rastas for bringing it up. All right. Is there? I guess we've already sort of had a motion. Do we need a roll call? Or question is, was there a nay? No one is indicating there was a nay, so I believe the motion has passed. Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk? We lose our...
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have. Would you like to adjourn?
I think people would be willing to. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Yeah, it's been moved. Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
I'm not sure who made the motion.
More.
Brenda.
More.
And the second?
Scherzer supported it.
Scherzer supported.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We are adjourned.